Alright guys, today we're going to talk about inverse functions. Please make sure you've got something to take some notes. I've got everything written out and you're going to need to write it down. You're going to need to know these definitions and this terminology. So, inverse functions. Let's start with a very important concept. For an inverse function to exist, f of x must be a one-to-one function. So what is a one-to-one function? Well, a function is that for each member of the domain, there exists one and only one member of the range. In plain English, that means for each input, or x, there is one output, y. And this means it passes the vertical line test, okay? You draw a vertical line, that is you picking an x value. And if it hits the function in exactly one spot, that means that you get one output or one y value. Okay, so for each member of the domain, there is only one member of the range. That is a function. For a function to be one-to-one, it has to meet that definition, and it has to meet this definition, which is for each member of the range, there exists one and only one member of the domain. In plain English, that means if you have an output, if you pick something from your output list, you only get one input. Visually, that means it's going to pass the horizontal line test. Okay, so if I give you two functions here, if I give you a square root function and I give you a squaring function, this function is one-to-one. Why? Because it passes the vertical line test and it passes the horizontal line test. Hits in one place, hits in one place. This function is not one-to-one because it will pass the vertical line test, but the horizontal line test, if you pick an output, two different inputs will give you that. And you can see that from the idea that y equals x squared, because if you say, hey, listen, I'm going to pick an answer. Let's say, I don't know, 9. 3 squared will give you 9, and negative 3 squared will also give you 9. Okay, so two inputs will give you that output, and then visually that's what the horizontal line test tells us. So a square root function would be one-to-one. A squaring function would not be one-to-one. Okay. For an inverse function to exist, the original function must be one-to-one. That means that this guy would have an inverse, and this guy would not. Okay. Some notation. This is what an inverse function looks like. We write it just like this, and we read this f inverse of x. F inverse of x. Okay? Now I want to step back to early mathematics, and I want to ask you some questions. Okay? I got x plus 3 equals 8, and I want to isolate the value, the variable. And someone would tell me, well, you subtract 3 from both sides. Why? And the answer is you've got x plus 3, and you want to get rid of plus 3, and so you subtract. Why do you subtract? Because subtraction is the inverse of addition, and you do it to both sides. Okay? 3x equals 15. I need to get rid of the 3. What would you do? You would divide by 3. Why? Because you are multiplying in the original problem, and the inverse of multiplication is division. You with me so far? Here, I've got square root of x plus 3 equals 2. I want to get rid of this square root. What do? We square both sides. Why? Because a square and a square root are inverses, and inverses cancel out, and it would leave me this, and then I can go on to a solution. Okay? Here, I got x squared plus 2 equals 11. I add 2 to both, subtract 2 from both sides. I get x squared equals 9. From here, how do I get rid of x squared? I take the square root. Why? Because a square and a square root are inverses. Okay? So where I'm trying to get you with this is that inverses, the word we like to use is we like to say they cancel out. Okay? In reality, they don't cancel out. In this case, 3 and negative 3 makes 0. And in this case, 3 and 3 makes 1. Okay? But In a general sense, inverses undo what's being done. Okay? So mathematically, inverse operations are used to solve math problems. Inverse functions are also often used to solve math problems as well. So I want to take just a second and talk about something called a transcendental function. So there's a thing called a transcendental function. It's actually a family of equations that have their own rules. They don't follow algebra rules. Anything that doesn't follow algebra rules is a transcendental function. The most famous transcendental functions that you may have seen in the past are trig functions: sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine, cosine, and tangent don't follow algebra rules because they're not algebra functions. They are transcendental functions. They have their own set of rules. We commonly use inverse functions when we're working with transcendental functions, and you will learn some transcendental functions later in this class. Okay? So how do we find an inverse function? Well, I'm going to give you my steps to finding an inverse function. Step 1 is the function 1 to 1. If the answer is no, then your answer is no inverse exists. And you are done with that problem, period. If the answer is yes, we move on to step 2. We're going to swap x and y. We're going to solve for y. And then at the end, we're going to change y to f inverse of x. Now, this step here is exceptionally important. And if you don't do it, I take off lots of points. The reason for that is the original function is defined as y. This new function that you've created cannot also be defined as y. It has to be defined as something new, and that's why we call it f inverse of x. So make sure you do this last step. So what I want to do is I want to find some inverses for you. So I've already worked these so that I'm not trying to write and talk. So let's go through it. Find the inverse if it exists, and give the domain and the range. Y equals 3x minus 8. First step, is it 1 to 1? And I say yes, it is. How do I know this? Because this is a line, and visually, a line will pass the vertical line test and the horizontal line test. So this is 1 to 1 because I know what the picture looks like. Moving on, take x and y and swap them. And this is the important part. No coefficients, no exponents, no anything. Literally cut this letter out, and swap places. That gives me x equals 3y minus 8. That is step 2. Step 3 is the hard part, solve for y, which in this case is not that difficult. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Then I'm going to divide by 3. And I get x plus 8 equals 3. This is my inverse function, so I'm going to call it f inverse of x. And this is step 4, where I change this into my new function. This is not the same as the original equation, so I give it a new name. Now, how do we find the domain and the range of an inverse function? It is actually quite easy. And it doesn't matter if you know the shape of this or not. It only matters if you know the shape of this. To find an inverse, you swap x and y. Because you swapped x and y, you're going to swap the domain and the range. And in this case, both domain and range for the original function are all real numbers. So when I swap these, the domain and range for the inverse will be all real numbers. It's pretty easy. Okay? Question number 2. Y equals 2, x minus 1 quantity squared plus 2. I look at this graph and immediately I recognize it makes a parabola. It passes the vertical line test. It does not pass the horizontal line test. Therefore, it is not 1 to 1, and no inverse exists. And that's the answer to that question, and I move on. Now let's move to one that maybe will make sense when we talk about domain and range. So here we go. I've got y equals square root of x plus 1 minus 2. Now I know this is a square root function, and I know that it's been moved left 1 and down 2, so this point here is at negative 1 comma negative 2. Okay, that's what I know. Does it pass the vertical line test? Yes. Does it pass the horizontal line test? Yes. So, yes, it is 1 to 1. I'm going to swap x and y, and then I'm going to proceed to the next step, which is to solve for y. How do we solve for y? Well, we're going to start by adding 2 to both sides. That'll give us this. Now we're going to square both sides. This is the important piece. I square this, and I square this. Do not square the x and the 2 separately. You must square the quantity because it is all on one side. Okay? That's going to give me x plus 2 quantity squared equals y plus 1. Now I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to leave it in this format. I'm not going to expand this binomial. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. That gives me y equals x plus 2 squared minus 1. Okay? That's what it gives me. Last step, I'm going to change this to f inverse, and I get f inverse of x is equal to x plus 2 squared minus 1. Now, this is a parabola. I'm going to scoop my graph up here, just my paper up just a little bit. What do I know? This has been moved left 2 and down 1. So this is at minus 2, minus 1. And the domain for that graph is all real numbers, and the range is -1 to infinity. That's what it is from the graph. That is incorrect. Okay? And I'll explain why. Go back to your original function. The domain of that original function was -1 to infinity, because I know what this picture looks like. Therefore, the range must be, guess what? -1 to infinity. The range for your original function was -2 to infinity, so the domain must be -2 to infinity for your inverse. Okay? So, if you know the domain and range of the original function, because you swapped x and y, swap the domain and range. That'll give you the domain and range of your inverse. Don't graph it and try to find the domain and range that way. And in our next class, we'll actually graph this, and I'll explain more why this happens. But for now, if you know the domain and range of the original function, to find the domain and range of the inverse, because you switched x and y, take this domain and range and flip-flop them. So -1 to infinity, -2 to infinity becomes -2 to infinity, -1 to infinity. Okay? Last one, number 4, y equals x minus 1 cubed plus 2. X minus 1 cubed plus 2. Well, I look at that and I say, what does that look like? Well, a cubic function looks like that. And I know this point here has been moved right 1 up 2. Does it pass the vertical line test? And the answer is yes. Does it pass the horizontal line test? And the answer is yes. Okay, so draw my cubic function here. That's what it looks like. Passes the vertical line test, passes the horizontal line test. Therefore, guess what? It's 1 to 1. I can find the inverse. What do? Swap x and y. We get x equals y minus 1 cubed plus 2. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Then I'm going to take the cube root of this side and the cube root of this side. So I get the cube root of x minus 2 equals y minus 1. Then what? Add 1. Cool. What do I get? I get y equals the cube root of x minus 2 plus 1. The last step is to change that to f inverse, and that is my answer. The domain of the original function was all real numbers. The range of the original function was all real numbers. Swap those two, and that's the domain and the range for the inverse. So folks, that is inverse functions. Make sure you're able to find an inverse function. Make sure you know what a one-to-one function is. Make sure you can find the domain and range. That's where we'll leave off today. We'll pick up there next class.